Story time about when I messed up visiting a Nazi concentration camp. A few years ago, my uncle invited my friend and myself along to a trip to Poland. He was planning on visiting the Auschwitz Memorial Museum and the concentration camp. I said yes because I felt it was important for me to learn about the details of what went on. I was still quite young and had only learned more general information about the war and the camps, never really bothered to do my own research. You know how it goes. Let me set the scene a little here. The morning of, I had arrived and we were all ready to go. I was unsure of the weather. It was hot and humid, but it would likely rain later and cool down a bit. My friend looks at me and goes, "Are you gonna wear that?" And I said yes, thinking that this shirt was probably warm enough in case it got colder, so I won't even need to bring a jacket. Alright then, off we go. We get to the first camp and the tour begins. It was fascinating and horrifying, but I suppose that is to be expected. As our group makes its way through the camp, I'm surprised by how much information is completely new to me, and how much worse it is than I'd initially learned. At some point, we go into the building where they showcase the suitcases, shoes, hair, things like that. I think we're about half an hour, maybe more, into the tour, which would take a few hours total. I stay close by the tour guide so that I can hear him better. The guide then leads us to a room where they showcase the prisoner uniforms. It was at this point that I realized I fucked up. I'm standing next to the tour guide and the prisoner uniforms, absolutely mortified. The shirt I was wearing looked exactly like the prisoner uniforms. I had no idea that was what my friend was trying to warn me about, with bleach blonde hair and blue eyes to boot. When we get outside, I asked why no one said anything before we left. My friend said she did, so she figured I knew and was trying to make some kind of statement. Hadn't I ever seen the boy in the striped pajamas? I hadn't, nor any type of other media that showed the uniforms or details of prisoner life. Somehow I managed 18 years or so avoiding the specific detail that would come back to bite me. I was stuck feeling like an asshole for the rest of the day.
Story time about how my husband ran away with his brother's wife on their wedding day. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My husband has been a serial cheater for the 5 years that we've been married. He started cheating on me 2 weeks after we got married. And no, he never bothered to hide any of it. Anytime I found out about an affair, I would ask him and he would be honest and tell me that yes, he was having an affair, but that he would end it. But of course I knew that once a cheater, always a cheater. So I never ever trusted him after that. I wanted to even the playing field, so I decided to have my own affairs. You see, I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine so that he could see what it felt like. And he actually got psychotic when he found out that I cheated on him the first time. He even locked me in a room for 5 hours and questioned me. I told him that if he was going to cheat on me, then I was definitely going to cheat on him too. I know that this is incredibly toxic, but it was the only thing that I could think of to make him change his ways. That's when he finally decided that he would try to stay faithful to me for as long as he possibly could. But what do you know, 2 weeks later, he was already cheating on me again. He had a really rowdy group of friends and they would always go out to bars, so this is how he met these women. Of course, he'd tell them that he was single and these girls had no idea that he was married. So it's not like I could get mad at them. My husband is close to his brother and they would always hang out. When his brother got engaged and he met his fiance, I could tell that my husband was eyeing her from head to toe. That's when I told him that he needed to stay away from her, not only for me, but for his brother. And he swore that he would never ever do that to his own brother. But he could definitely do it to his wife, of course. We would see his brother and his fiance all the time. We would have dinners together, and that's when I started noticing that she was also staring at my husband. I would catch them constantly looking at each other. Eventually, I told my husband's brother, my brother-in-law, about the concerns I had of his fiance with my husband. He laughed and even actually got mad at me for suggesting such a thing. I told him that he would regret it if he didn't take action now. A few weeks before the wedding, my husband started acting really strange. I noticed my husband was acting really strange before the wedding. He started going out every single night. He wouldn't tell me where he would go and he would leave his phone in the house. Sometimes he'd come back the following morning. A few days before the wedding, I decided to confront him about it. I knew that I didn't want to stress him out before the wedding, but at the same time, I couldn't live like this. I had this worried, sick feeling in my stomach every single night and I would barely sleep knowing that he was out doing God knows what. When I asked him what was going on, he told me that I was overreacting and that he was just playing poker with his friends at his friend's house. I told him to call his friend on speaker so that he could confirm his story. That's when he threw a tantrum. He started slamming doors and cabinets in the kitchen, telling me that I was overreacting and that I needed to let him live his life. And he even mentioned divorce for the first time ever. He said he didn't want to be tied down to such a jealous woman. That's when I broke. I literally pulled out a list of all the women that he had cheated on me, the ones that I knew of. And I told him that he had broken my heart over 10 times that I knew of. And that I knew he would never stop and that the only thing that was fair for me was to at least have him be honest. That's when he hugged me and started to cry. And that was the first time I had seen him show any emotion towards my pain. He began to apologize and told me that he never meant to hurt me that way. We hugged and we just watched a movie and everything was back to normal. But I knew that nothing was back to normal and that he was hiding something. Finally, the day of the wedding comes and he is stressed. From the moment he woke up, he was pacing in the house, sweating. He even had 4 cups of coffee. I asked him what was wrong and he said that he was just nervous for his brother. We finally head to the church where everyone is already waiting. And when we get there, the first thing I see is the bride. She's standing outside the church with the suitcase. Without even turning to look at me, my husband tells me to get out of the car quickly. Without looking at me, my husband tells me to get out of the car as fast as I can. I asked him what was going on, and he opened the door and pushed me out. That's when the bride jumps into the car with her suitcase and her wedding dress, and he drove off as fast as he could. I kept yelling at the top of my lungs. Of course, the entire family runs out of the church to see what's happening. That's when my mother-in-law told me that the wedding had already happened, but we had arrived late. And that right after they were married, the bride took the groom aside and told her that she didn't want to be with him. Of course, he got really upset and they got into a full blown out fight in front of everyone. When he asked her where she was going, she said she had a ride prepared. She grabbed her suitcase and apparently walked out, and that's when my husband and I pulled up. The groom and I were absolutely devastated. I kept calling my husband and he kept calling his wife. But of course, they both ignored us. My parents-in-law were so upset that they even called the police to report his car stolen. This was in the hopes that they would at least find their car. But unfortunately, nobody found the car on the streets. This led us to believe that they were probably hauled up at some hotel. This is when I remembered that my husband really liked this one hotel that was by his job. He always told me that he would go there for drinks with his friends. So my family-in-law and I show up. And as soon as we get to the hotel, I see my husband and his now girlfriend having lunch in the restaurant at the hotel. Of course, we confronted them. We were all yelling at the top of our lungs and the hotel kicked us out. Finally, my father-in-law was able to talk some sense into my husband and make him realize what he had done. Not only had he ruined our marriage, but his brother's future as well. His brother was beside himself, so depressed and kept crying. And my mother-in-law had to take a sedative in order to calm down. My husband came to his senses and told his girlfriend that what they did was wrong. He looked at me and begged me for forgiveness, but of course, I didn't speak a word to him. My now sister-in-law / my husband's girlfriend, she decided to head straight to the airport and went back to her parents. It's been a few weeks now and my brother-in-law took her back. I still haven't forgiven my husband, but we're still living in the same house. I don't know what to do.
A 6th grade teacher asked your class the other day how many of them were Trump fans. And most of them not knowing what a Trump fan was and of course wanting to be liked by their teacher, they all raised their hands. Well, all except for little Johnny. The teacher looks over at little Johnny and says, "Johnny, why are you being different again?" And he says, "Well, because I'm not a Trump fan." And she says, "Well, why are you not a Trump fan?" And he says, "Because I'm a Democrat." She says, "Really, why are you a Democrat?" He says, "Well, my mom's a Democrat and my dad's a Democrat, so I'm a Democrat." She says, "Oh, really? Well, what if your mom was a moron and your dad was an idiot? What would that make you?" Johnny smiles and says, "A Trump fan."
Story time about how I came out as bi to my parents. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. By the time I was 12 years old, I definitely knew I was bi. By the time I was 14, I'd already had a girlfriend and a boyfriend, but my parents did not know any of this. When I was 15, I even had a girlfriend for a full year. She would come around the house and I would say that she was my friend. But one day my mom walks in on me and my friend making out on the bed without our shirts on. My mom was so horrified that she actually ran out of the room. Later I explained to her that we were just playing a game and that it was popular at school. I basically convinced her that I was not bi. Or at least I thought I did. Later on that day, my dad comes to my room and basically asked me if I liked girls. I swore up and down that I didn't. Then when I was 16, I found myself having 2 girlfriends, don't ask me how. Again, they would each come over and I would just say they were my friends. I thought I was home alone, so I invited my girlfriend over. We start fooling around and that's when my door opens. My dad is looking at me getting it on with another girl. Part 2 is up. My dad walks in on me while I was fooling around with the girl in bed. Mind you, I'm a girl. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Keep in mind, I had half of my clothes on. My dad literally picked me up from the bed and threw me out of my room. Then he kicked my girlfriend out. It was definitely traumatizing. My dad called my mom and told her to rush home. They interrogated me for 3 hours. I told them I'd had girlfriends and boyfriends. They were more than shocked. They finally calmed down and I was able to go to sleep. 2 days later, my dad tells me to pack my suitcase. I asked him why, but he wouldn't tell me. Then he drove me to a camp that promises to help your children who are bi. Instead of being afraid, I told my dad that I would try my best. I lasted about 2 days there. They basically made us do Bible study, and I was made to feel like a perv. So I packed my little suitcase and I left. So of course, I packed my suitcase, climbed 2 walls, and I was free. That's when I heard a really scary alarm. Part 3 is up. I thought I was free, but then I hear an alarm sound. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I started running and I got to a main road. Luckily, a bus was pulling up right on time. I get on the bus and I go straight to my girlfriend's house, which was about 2 hours away. That means they would have already told my parents I had escaped. Well, when I get to my girlfriend's house, my parents are already there. But guess what? My parents weren't there to pick me up. They were there to drop off all of my things. Yep, that's right. They kicked me out of the house. Thankfully, my girlfriend's family were super cool and they let me live with them. When I turned 18, I got an apartment and a roommate. My entire family stopped talking to me. It's been 4 years since I last saw my parents. I recently got hired at my dream job, so I went to my parents' house and I told them. I also came out to them properly. At least this time I was not yelled at. I speak to my mom on the phone every now and then, but I feel like I should talk to my dad again. What do you guys think? I just want them to accept me.
So it's another day at VS, but this time it's semi-annual sale. If you've never shopped the semi-annual sale, it means that bras, panties, fragrances, clothing, swimwear, everything goes on sale at VS. Well, certain items get marked down for really good prices. But Victoria's Secret loves to plaster these signs that say $3.99, $14.99, and in very tiny letters at the bottom of the sign, it'll say the words, "and up." This means that all the panties in the bin are not $3.99. They're $3.99 and up. They can be all the way up to $7 or $10.99. Same thing for the bras. It'll say $14.99, but the most expensive bra could probably be $34.99. So this lady comes over with her bag full of sale items, full of panties, full of bras. She's too busy to be bothered with me, so I'm just rigging up her items. She's not even paying attention to the screen. Finally, I announced her total as being around like $400 or $500, and she is in shock, like, wait, what? Part 2 is coming. So I kindly explained to this lady that everything in the bin was $3.99 and up or $14.99 and up, so the prices may vary. She gets pretty annoyed. She's like, I went and picked up all this stuff, and the sign says that it's $3.99 and $14.99. That's the price I want it for. I'm not taking anything else. I'm already like, here we go. So I say, Miss, I'm really sorry about the confusion, but the prices are marked on the individual tags, despite what the sign says. I said I can go through the bras and possibly look for the ones that are $14.99 and all of the panties that are only $3.99 if that will make you happy. But no, that wasn't good enough for her. She's pretty annoyed, and of course, as per usual, she wants to speak to a manager, and I kindly tell her the sale price is a sale price. Unless it goes down, that's what it is. First, she says, I'm not going to take any of it. Delete it all. I say, okay. Then she decides, just kidding. After I've already deleted it, she wants it all again. So it's another day at VS. We had a promotion for a free bag. If you spend $75, then you get a free bag or free tote. That's something that often happens at VS. So this lady comes in and she's super excited. She's shopping around, racking up her bill so she has enough money to get a free tote. Little does she know, I'm at the register giving away my last free tote. She comes up to me like, hey girl, I got my bag full. I got my 75. I'm ready to get my tote. I'm like, I'm so sorry, miss. I actually just gave away the last one. You would have thought I just told her that I murdered a family member of hers because she was tight. And she's like, oh, really? So what are you about to give me? Because I'm spending 75 today. So what do I get for free? She's like, a shirt? A perfume? I need something. I'm not leaving without it. Like, miss, I'm sorry, we don't have it. It's up to you if you want to spend the $75, but we have no more gifts. It's while supplies last. So after debating back and forth with her, like, I'm sorry, I can't just give you a free perfume. I can't just pick a shirt off the wall and give it to you. If you look at the coupon, it's this promotion is only while supplies last. So she's like, well, can you call some of the other stores? I want to see if they have the free bags left. I'm like, sure, I mean, I guess I can call, but they're not going to let you just come to the store and get a free bag. You have to spend the money at their store. She dismissed that idea pretty quickly after she realized that she would have to go from our mall to another mall to possibly get this bag. And she didn't have any time to drive. So she just decides to refuse to leave the store until somebody gets her something, because she is just so entitled. Of course, I have to get my manager involved, and he's like, look, let's just get this lady out of the store. Give her something. What do we have back here? So I'm digging behind the register, and we just so happen to find this old tote bag, not the one that we were promoting, an old one. So she spent the 75 and got that random tote bag just to keep her quiet. So after debating back and forth with her, like, I'm sorry, I can't just give you a free perfume. I can't just pick a shirt off the wall and give it to you. If you look at the coupon, it's this promotion is only while supplies last. So she's like, well, can you call some of the other stores? I want to see if they have the free bags left. I'm like, sure, I mean, I guess I can call, but they're not going to let you just come to the store and get a free bag. You have to spend the money at their store. She dismissed that idea pretty quickly after she realized that she would have to go from our mall to another mall to possibly get this bag. And she didn't have any time to drive, so she just decides to refuse to leave the store until somebody gets her something, because she is just so entitled. Of course, I have to get my manager involved, and he's like, look, let's just get this lady out of the store. Give her something. What do we have back here? So I'm digging behind the register, and we just so happen to find this old tote bag, not the one that we were promoting, an old one. So she spent the $75 and got that random tote bag just to keep her quiet. So I'm looking at this dirty, stanky bra, and I'm like, what am I about to do? So I'm picking it up with tissue paper, I'm analyzing it, and finally I'm looking in at the date and I see that it's an old bra that we don't even make anymore. But you know, VS will pretty much take anything back because they love to keep their customers happy. So, you know, I have to call my manager on the walkie and get his permission. He has to take a look at it, but as per usual, we took it back. And she went home with a brand new bra. And to be honest with y'all, I'm happy because that bra was filthy and dirty and smelly and she needed a new one. I said, sis, you should probably pick up a few before you go. But it is what it is. I'm happy she got a new bra, but please don't return nasty, dirty, used items. Like, it's so gross and I hated having to deal with that when I worked at VS. If you have a question about VS, a question about my story, leave it in the comments below. Also, follow me for more VS horror stories. One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff and, you know, we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me. So she's raising her voice at me and I'm like, but I just couldn't, y'all. So I was like, I can raise my voice too. Do you want to play this game? Because I'll win, promise. And she's like, oh, well, what time do you get off work? And I'm like, I'm closing. I'm actually getting off at 11. Would you like to pick me up? And then she calls me stupid. She's like, you're fucking stupid. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna eat that. Then she calls me a dumb bitch. Whew. So I took a deep breath. And I said, fuck you, you dumbass bitch. Your broke ass can't even afford these motherfucking clothes and you over here trying to scam me. Fuck off my line. And honestly, me and her just started going back and forth at each other like, My manager's like, go to the back, go to the back, go to the back. I'm still cursing her out as I'm walking to the back of the store. I really thought I would get fired, but I actually didn't.